The movie opens showing Hector first. He is heading home after buying some things. As he reaches his house, he notices that the trunk of his car is open and all the items he bought are scattered outside. He carefully gathers everything and carries it straight inside. His house is going through some renovations at the moment. Inside, Hector sees his wife Puli arranging flowers. She had specifically told him to buy a table. Remembering this, Hector brings the table she had asked for and hands it to her. He says, "Anyway, set this up and put it away. I'm feeling sleepy. I'll lie down for a while." Then he quickly goes to the bedroom. When Puli enters the room, he notices that all the windows are open. He closes them one by one and finally goes to bed. But no matter how hard he tries, he cannot sleep. Restless, he gets up again and opens one of the windows. Then he begins checking the surroundings. Puli has a hobby. He likes to watch the entire area with his binoculars. Now he takes them and scans the surroundings carefully. Suddenly, his phone rings. He hurries to answer it, but no one speaks on the other side. The call ends quickly. Feeling suspicious, Hector calls the number back, but again, no one answers. Instead, a computer voice says, "The number you are calling is currently out of service. If you have a message, please leave a voicemail." At that moment, Puli's wife comes into the room. The phone slips from his hand and falls on the floor. She asks who called. Puli tries to explain, but the conversation is interrupted. His wife, in a romantic mood, suddenly kisses him. Meanwhile, Puli picks up the phone and checks the voicemail to see what the message was. After listening, he puts the phone back on the table. Sometime later, Puli's wife sets up the table he brought. Outside, Hector sits in the garden with his binoculars, observing the area. His wife calls out, asking, "What are we eating today? I haven't made anything. Will you go out and get something for us?" Puli replies without looking away from the binoculars, suggesting she tries to manage it herself. She says, "I just came from outside. I can't drive, so please try to make something." As Puli continues looking through the binoculars, he notices something moving in a forest a little far from the house. He points it out to his wife, but when she looks, she sees nothing. "I don't see anything. Are you just sitting there staring?" she asks, and quickly goes back inside. Puli refocuses on the forest. This time, he spots a woman wearing red pants and a white vest. She is facing to the left, so he cannot see her face. Suspiciously, she is biting her nails and seems nervous. At that moment, the woman was doing something else. She began taking off her vest. Hector watched anxiously, feeling tense. Just then, Hector's wife appeared, so he quickly lowered the binoculars. Hector's wife told him, "Okay, you sit here with the binoculars. I'll go out and get something to eat. Give me the car key." Hector immediately handed her the key. As soon as she left, Hector picked up the binoculars again to check the area. But the woman was gone. She had disappeared, leaving only one clue behind: her pants lying on the ground in the forest. Hector didn't know what to do. He moved his chair closer, sat down, and looked again. But all he could see were the pants. Growing suspicious, Hector stood up and walked into the forest to investigate. He reached a road and noticed a hidden trash bin and a bicycle lying nearby. He examined everything carefully, then continued walking down an alley that led deeper into the forest. Suddenly, he saw the woman lying on the ground. Her clothes were completely gone, and she appeared unconscious. Hector's heart raced with fear. He rushed closer to check on her, trying to understand what had happened. Suddenly, someone attacked him with a pair of scissors. The stab hit him hard. In pain and shock, Hector ran away without looking back, hiding behind a tree. After a moment, he picked up his binoculars again and looked toward the forest. There he saw a man standing at a distance, wearing a black coat. The man had a bandage wrapped around his head and was holding scissors. Hector froze in fear. The man suddenly turned around, revealing the bandage clearly. Terrified, Hector ran again. He ran until he reached a large fence. The man, or freak, as Hector thought, broke the fence and jumped over it, continuing forward. Hector saw a building ahead, but no one was around. He called out, but there was no answer. He needed to get inside. The man picked up a stone and threw it at the building's glass, shattering it. Hector seized the chance and quickly went inside. But inside, the building seemed empty as well. Hector noticed a paper stuck on the wall. It looked like a calendar with some markings, but he couldn't understand it. He left it there and moved into another room, where he found first aid supplies. His arm had a deep cut from the scissors. He quickly wrapped it with a bandage, taking care of the wound. Once he was ready, he continued searching. Eventually, he entered a lab. On a table, he spotted a wireless radio. Hector grabbed it and spoke urgently. "Hello? Is anyone there? Who is this? Listen carefully. I need help. Someone tried to kill me." He explained how he had been stabbed and had escaped by jumping the fence. While they were talking, a strange noise came from above. Hector tried to stay calm, saying, "Don't panic. I'm in another building. I will come over. Just stay there." The person on the other side thanked him, and Hector hung up. Hector started checking the lab thoroughly. Suddenly, the wireless rang again. He picked it up and asked, "Hello, have you spoken to me?" There was silence for a while, then the voice responded. Hector listened carefully as the person asked, "So, you attacked someone? The person you saw had a bandage around his head?" Hector confirmed, "Yes, he did. I can see him now. Where is he? Hector was starting to get really scared. On the other side of the wireless, a calm voice tried to reassure him. Don't be afraid. He's a little far from where you are. The whole area is covered with CCTV cameras. I'm watching everything from the monitor. He just jumped that fence. I'm keeping an eye on him. Is he coming this way or that? Stay calm. Call the police as soon as possible. Hector replied, I'll call right now. Don't get tense. He put the call on hold and quickly grabbed something to lock the door behind him. The person on the other end started speaking again. Hello, why did you call the police? No, I didn't get through. What's wrong with the phone? Hector shook his head. I don't know. I can't get any connection outside. Okay, what's that man doing now? The voice asked. Hector whispered, he's walking there, coming this way. I broke the glass to get inside. If he sees me, he'll know I'm here. What should I do? Where exactly are you standing? The voice asked. I'm inside a lab. I locked the door. It's safe here, Hector replied. No need to stay there anymore. Come here, the voice instructed. Good. I don't know where you are, Hector said. I'm in a building beyond yours. There's a door on the right side of the hall. Go through that. He's coming from the other side, so he won't see you. If you stay, he'll catch you. It's dangerous. Hurry and get out. Hector didn't waste a second. He quickly opened the door and stepped out. What should I do now? He whispered. Wait a minute, the voice said. It's dark. You can't see the way. I'll turn on the garden lights. Walk that way. Hurry. You'll be safe there. Don't turn off the lights until you get inside. I need to keep him from seeing you. Hector started moving cautiously toward the lights. Where is he now? He asked. He's inside the building, checking the glass. He saw the broken window. Move quickly. Suddenly, the camera signal that the person was watching cut out. Oh no! The camera signal is gone. I can't see anything. I can't tell you his location anymore. Come here as fast as you can. Hector ran as fast as he could, his heart pounding. After a while, he was completely exhausted. He collapsed, gasping for breath. I can't run anymore, he muttered. Quickly, Hector. Turn off the lights, the voice instructed. Hector obeyed, plunging the garden back into darkness, silently catching his breath and waiting for the next move. Hector looked at the building the scientist had mentioned. Just then, he heard the sound of a car outside. At the same time, the person he had been speaking with opened the door. Without wasting a second, Hector quickly ran inside the building. Inside, he finally saw the scientist in person. The scientist reassured him, "Don't be afraid. He can't come inside. You're safe here." Hector looked around and noticed several machines set up in the room, all switched on. In the corner, there was a large tank. "What's that for?" Hector asked, curious but cautious. "You can hide inside this tank if needed," the scientist explained. "Once you get inside, I can close the lid remotely. You'll be safe." He demonstrated how the tank worked. With a press of a button, the lid could lower, enclosing anyone inside. Hector hesitated, scared. He didn't want to go in just yet. He walked toward a window and looked outside. A car passed by, blocking the main exit. There had to be another way, but Hector felt trapped. "If I were you, I'd be going crazy," he muttered to himself. Finally, Hector decided to trust the scientist. "Okay, I'll go inside the tank," he said nervously. The scientist replied, "Good, I'll operate the lid from outside. Once it's down, you'll be completely safe." Suddenly, they heard a car stop outside. Hector looked and saw the man with the bandage staring through the building's window. Panic surged through him. He quickly stepped into the tank, which was filled with a white liquid. The scientist started lowering the lid. Hector panicked and tried to pull himself out, but the lid kept descending. He struggled, shouting, but it was too late. The lid closed completely, submerging him in the liquid. Then a spark of light flashed, and the lid began to float up. Hector quickly emerged, gasping. The scientist, tense, immediately switched off the machine. Hector noticed something strange. He had come in at night, but now daylight poured in through the windows. Confused, he stepped out of the tank and started walking. The scientist approached him calmly, asking, "Who are you?" Hector froze. "Don't you know me?" the scientist continued. Hector stammered, "No, I don't know. Who are you? What did you do to me?" The scientist seemed confused by Hector's questions. He calmly said, "You were inside the tank, weren't you? You were here before." Hector didn't respond. He was too shocked, still trying to understand everything. Looking around, Hector saw the tank filled with the white liquid again. He noticed antennas on the roof and a vehicle parked next to the building. The scientist spoke slowly, almost as if confessing, "That white liquid inside your body, that's the problem. The tank is still in the testing phase," but Hector hardly listened. He had already lifted the binoculars and was looking toward his house. What he saw made his heart stop. The scene was exactly the same as before, his wife arranging flowers in the garden, and another Hector walking up with the table. Completely stunned, Hector lowered the binoculars. The scientist, curious, also took a look at the house. His face changed. He too was shocked. After staring for a few seconds, he walked back to Hector and said quietly, "You've just traveled into the past." Hector jumped to his feet. "I'm going home," he said. "No," the scientist warned. "Call the police. Don't go back there. You're already in your house right now." Hector lifted the binoculars again. Inside the garden, Hector 1, his earlier self, opened the window, glanced out, then shut it and walked away, just as he remembered doing. The scientist scientist came closer. Listen to me. Today is September 16th, 2006. Do you doubt that? Hector shook his head. No, but when I got in that tank, it was night. How is it morning now? That's because you didn't travel far, the scientist said calmly. You jumped only an hour and a half ahead. That's why you can see yourself now, at the point when you were at home and in the garden. Hector whispered, "What's going on? Who told me to get in that machine?" "Enough questions," the scientist replied. "Don't talk about what's happened. It's better you stay quiet. We'll try to fix this." He led Hector into another room. "Relax. Tell me your name, Hector," he muttered. "Good. Don't stress yourself. We'll set it right." "But who's in my house now?" Hector asked. "It's you," the scientist answered. "Didn't I tell you? That's you, Hector 1. And you are Hector 2. Look in this mirror if you don't believe me. You're seeing about an hour ago," the scientist continued. "Hector 1 will follow the same path you did. Once he gets into the tank, he'll be sent back, and then he'll disappear." Hector stared at him. "How long will this last?" "That's important," the scientist said. "Hector 1 only exists until the moment he enters the tank. After that, he's gone. We have to wait until dark. I'll go to the building and set up the machine. When Hector 1 enters the tank, we'll send him to the past and close the loop. But you must not tell anyone outside about any of this." The scientist smiled faintly. "I'm not even supposed to be here today. It's my weekend off, but I came in because I was interested in this test. Stay here. I'll go set up the tank." Then he left. Hector immediately went to the phone and tried to call his house. He was worried about his wife. After all, Hector 1 was there now. When the call connected, it was Hector 1 who answered. Hector 2 said nothing and quickly hung up. A moment later, Hector 1 called back, but Hector 2 didn't pick up. In the room, the scientist heard the phone ringing. When no one answered, a computerized voice came on. "This line is out of service now. If you have anything to say, please send a voicemail." Meanwhile, Hector could hear everything happening inside the house. He heard the phone fall to the floor, followed by the sound of his wife kissing. While he was listening, the scientist appeared beside him. "What were you doing?" the scientist asked sharply. "Did you call home? Didn't I tell you not to let anyone know about this?" Hector quickly replied, "Don't worry. I didn't tell anyone. I only called. I was just looking." The scientist paused for a moment, thinking. "Do you remember that call you got earlier at home? It happened exactly the same way as before. It's repeating itself." He walked over to the broken glass Hector 2 had smashed earlier. To his surprise, the glass was no longer broken. "You mustn't speak to anyone," the scientist said. "I'll go upstairs and set up the tank. But remember, you cannot change anything that's already happened. If you call your wife or try to tell anyone what's going on, it will prevent Hector 1 from entering the tank. That will change everything about your life. Do you understand?" Hector nodded, understanding the warning. The scientist left, and Hector thought carefully about what to do. He couldn't risk changing anything that had already happened. Hector noticed a car key nearby. He grabbed it and stepped outside. A white car was parked there. He quickly got in and started driving. Soon he realized the gate ahead was closed. Spotting a remote under the seat, he opened it and drove out. The gate closed automatically behind him. As he drove along the road, he saw the same girl he had seen earlier, riding her bicycle toward him. She passed by, and Hector watched her in the rearview mirror. Suddenly, a red van slammed into the back of his car, sending it crashing into a nearby tree. He was thrown forward, badly injured, his face bleeding. Hector quickly tore off his bandage and wrapped it around his face. Then he realized something shocking. The man in the mask was himself. Confused, he checked his face in the mirror. At that moment, the girl approached him frantically. "What happened to you?" she asked. "Nothing," Hector replied, hiding his face. "My car, there was an accident, but I'm hurt. Stay here. I'll go call an ambulance," she said, rushing off. Hector stepped out of the car, walking toward her. She stopped him. "You can't move." "Stay put." She helped him sit down and noticed the bandage was loose. "Let me fix that for you," she said. But as she reached for scissors in her bag, Hector froze. These were the same scissors that had stabbed him earlier. Realizing this, he allowed her to wrap the bandage carefully, taking the scissors from her to be safe. "Come with me," she said urgently. She guided him along the path. She parked her bicycle near a trash bin, and Hector noticed a black coat lying nearby. He quickly put it on. Together, they started walking through an alley, both on edge. Meanwhile, Hector 1 sat inside, watching through the binoculars. Hector 2 needed to attract his attention, so he spoke to the girl, giving her instructions. "Smile, bite your nails," he said. She complied. Then he told her to send her dress, which she removed. Next, he told her to go to a nearby rock and take off her pants. She obeyed, but suddenly she kicked him and ran away, leaving the pants behind. Hector 2 picked up the pants and left them there. He chased after her, and after running for a while, caught up. In the struggle, she lost consciousness. Hector 2 carefully carried her to the rock. He removed her remaining clothes and hid them in the forest before taking cover behind a tree. At that moment, Hector 1 arrived and began checking on the girl. Hector 2, hiding, saw him and stabbed him with the scissors. Then he ran, with Hector Hector 2 following closely. Eventually, Hector 2 reached a spot where he placed his hands over his eyes to steady himself. Hector 1, seeing the figure, panicked and ran away. Once Hector 1 disappeared, Hector 2 sat down, catching his breath. Suddenly, he heard a scream. The girl. He ran toward the sound, but when he reached the rock, she was gone. Hector searched frantically, but she had vanished without a trace. From where he stood, Hector could see the lights inside his house glowing. His wife wasn't there now. She had gone out to buy food. That could only mean one thing. The woman had gone into his house. He jumped the fence and ran. Taking the stairs 2 at a time, he suddenly heard a scream from above. At the same time, the table toppled over, hitting his body and knocking him down. Gasping, he got back up and pushed forward. When he reached a window, he noticed a ladder leaning against it. He thought, she must have escaped through here, and climbed out the window. But then he heard another voice from inside. "Please don't run! I have something to tell you," Hector shouted, hurrying back inside. The door was locked. "Didn't I tell you not to run? I'll explain everything. Please open the door," he begged, but there was no response. Desperate, Hector kicked the door down. The room was empty. He searched every corner until he reached the top of the ladder. Looking up, he saw the woman climbing. He grabbed her leg and pulled, and in an instant, she fell from the building. He ran to the edge and looked down. His blood ran cold. The person lying dead on the ground wasn't the woman at all. It was his wife. Stunned, he looked toward the car. It was parked right where she'd left it. That confirmed the horrifying truth. The woman he'd just killed was his own wife. He sank to the floor in despair. Then his wireless crackled. He heard the scientist's voice giving instructions to Hector 1. The conversation Hector remembered from inside the building. "Where are you now? Who are you?" the scientist was asking. Hector 2 cut the wireless off, then pressed the button again. "Speak slowly," he said into it. "I'm the one with the bandage. You must bring him to the tank. I'll come with my car." Meanwhile, the scientist was still guiding Hector 1. "Did you attack the man with the bandage? I'm watching him on camera. I'll tell you how to get here." Hector 2 listened to everything. He left the house quickly, got into the car and drove off. When he reached the building, the gate was closed. Without the remote, he couldn't open it. He rammed it, slipped through, and walked into the garden. From inside the building, Hector 1 saw all of this. He saw the man outside moving toward the window, trying to frighten him. Panicked, Hector 1 climbed into the machine. Outside, the scientist waited as Hector 1 got into the tank. Then he came out of the building and turned to Hector 2. "Everything's fine now. I need to check your health. Come home with me," he said. But Hector 2 didn't move. His mind was on his wife. He couldn't leave things like this. He had to go back. He had to save her. He turned toward the building again. The scientist watched him. "What are you doing? Are you going into that machine to cause more problems?" "I have to," Hector 2 said. "You must help me." "No, Hector. The machine doesn't work anymore," the scientist replied firmly. "Didn't you see? Your first trip drained its power. No matter what, I won't start it again." "What are you doing?" Hector 2 demanded. The scientist held up the remote, showing it to him. Hector suddenly noticed something about the machine. One of the large batteries was missing. He remembered the scientist throwing something away earlier. "Where is the battery?" Hector demanded. The scientist didn't reply. Hector stepped closer, eyes narrowing. "Where is it?" Finally, the scientist sighed. "I took it out and threw it away. Without it, the machine won't work." Hector stared at him. "Why would you do that?" The scientist stayed quiet. Furious, Hector dropped the wire in his hand and shoved the scientist against the wall. "Why did you remove the battery?" he shouted. "You took it before I even came here. You knew I would use the machine." "How? Who told you?" The scientist looked shaken. Then he spoke in a low voice. "I knew because you were going to try again. I warned you not to, but Hector 3 threatened me." Hector froze. Hector 3? Who is Hector 3? The scientist explained. "You weren't the first person to go into the tank. You were the second. The first one came before you. He called himself Hector 3. He threatened me and made me pretend I was seeing you for the first time. Everything I did, he made me do it." Hector's hands trembled. "What do you mean he came before me?" "He came from the future," the scientist said. "About 40 seconds before you became Hector 2. That is, before you stepped out of the tank as Hector 2, he had already arrived. After you came out, he followed right after you. I don't know why he made me act like this, but after you both left, I prepared to send Hector 1 back. Then the wireless came on. It was Hector 3 again. He said people would discover what we'd done. He was very nervous. He also told me you would try to go back into the past again. He didn't tell me why, but he ordered me to stop you at any cost." The scientist glanced at the machine, then back at Hector. "That's why I removed the battery. If you go back into the machine, you'll become Hector 3. I didn't want to help you do that, but I'm telling you the truth now. I'm not trying to hurt you. I just don't think anything good will happen if you become Hector 3. The scientist's voice trembled. "Some time ago, there was a problem in your life you could never stop. You even called me and said you would fail." Hector 2 didn't fully understand what the scientist meant, but he made up his mind. He had to try something else. He searched the area until finally, in the middle of the heavy rain, he found the missing battery. In the distance, he could hear the faint sound of police approaching. There was no time. He rushed back to the machine with the scientist, took off his coat, and climbed into the tank. The scientist scientist hesitated, then switched the machine on. Moments later, Hector 2 stepped out again, but now he was Hector 3. The scientist stood there looking at him as if seeing him for the first time. For the scientist, this was still the present moment. He had only ever met Hector 1. He had prepared the machine for Hector 2, but now Hector 3 stood before him. Hector 3 spoke calmly but firmly. "Listen to me carefully. I came from the future using your machine. Now there are 3 of me. You must help me remove the other 2. The tank lid closed again. Now Hector 2 will come out. You have to take him back to the tank. Once Hector 2 arrives here, I'll tell you everything that's going to happen," Hector 3 said, hiding in the shadows. Soon, Hector 1, who had gone in earlier, became Hector 2. As dawn broke, Hector 3 slipped out quietly, the scientist at his side, both watching events unfold. "You need to distract him," Hector 3 told the scientist. "I'm going to my house now. He must never see me. Talk to him as if you don't know anything." The scientist nodded and walked toward Hector 2, as instructed. Meanwhile, Hector 3 took a car near the building and prepared to leave. But when he reached the gate, it was locked. He had no remote to open it. Frustrated, he asked the scientist, "Is there any other car here?" "There's a white car," the scientist replied. "It has the remote, but Hector 2 will need it. That's why you can't take it." "Then show me something else," Hector 3 said. The scientist pointed to a red van. This was the same van that had hit Hector 2's car earlier. At that moment, Hector 2 had already opened the gate with the white car and left. Before the gate closed, Hector 3 drove out with the red van. He sped straight ahead and crashed into the car where Hector 2 was sitting. The accident Hector 2 had already experienced. But this time, Hector 3's control failed too. His van veered off and he tumbled out, injured. Crawling to his phone, he called the scientist, panic in his voice. "I'm afraid everyone will find out what we've done. Our plan has gone wrong," Hector 3 said frantically. While Hector 3 was speaking, he noticed the same woman walking through the forest. At the same time, the scientist's voice crackled through the wireless. "Where are you now?" "This is my fault," the scientist admitted. "I shouldn't have operated that machine. My boss warned me not to use it for 6 months, but I ignored it. That's why all this happened." Hector 3 listened carefully as the scientist continued. "You tried to play around with the machine, didn't you? Because of your recklessness, everything went wrong. If you want to keep your job and your life, you must do exactly what I say. Do not put the man with the bandage in the tank. Under any circumstances," Hector 3 understood. The scientist threw the wireless aside, warning him again not to let the man with the bandage go into the tank. Hector 2 had only caused harm after the scientist's earlier mistake. Hector 3 had to act quickly. He went straight toward the woman. When she saw him, she screamed. The same scream Hector 2 had heard earlier. Hector 3 calmed her down, convincing her to follow him to the house. By now, night had fallen. Inside, the girl made her sit in one part of the house, while she went to another room to gather supplies to bandage his wound. While he was away, his wife returned home, furious. "Where have you been?" "Someone broke the fence and a man got inside." "I've already informed the police," she shouted. Hector 3 motioned for the woman to stay quiet. Hector 2 was somewhere else in the house, and Hector 3 needed to be careful. He called his wife's attention and quickly led the woman to a nearby shed. There, he placed a ladder against the wall, secured the room, and made sure she was safe. Once she was secure, Hector 3 climbed the ladder and re-entered the house through a window. He anticipated what Hector 2 would do next. Grabbing a table, he prepared to confront him. Meanwhile, the woman might scream, so Hector 3 acted quickly. He threw him safely down, then gave her his wife's coat. He explained that, from a distance, appearances could mislead, so she needed to blend in. He even cut her hair to match his wife's style. Once ready, he directed her to the top of the house. Hector 2, following the plan, approached his wife. At that moment, she fell into the garden and hit the ground. Hector 3 held her, thinking it was his wife who had fallen. Meanwhile, Hector 2, convinced it was real, ran to the scientist with the car. For Hector 3, everything returned to the present. His timeline had ended. He and his wife waited, tense, for the police to arrive. And that's the story for today. How was it? Don't forget to leave your comments.